Hello and welcome to the Journal. I'm Steve Kendall. Lima and the Allen County area, the region, have become part of Ohio's go-to spots for growing the economy. What makes this area so attractive to businesses that are already there and ones who want to come here? We're joined by Cynthia Leis and David Stratton. I want to welcome you both to the show today to talk about this. Cindy, talk about kind of the background of AEDG, and you call it EDGE, I guess. Give us a little history about how it got to where it is today, how it started, because normally with economic development, counties, regions go through a whole series of different groups and things, and then we're here in 2025 with AEDG. So talk about how we got to where we are today.
Well, what you find today is many of the county economic development offices are organized differently across the region. But EDGE has been around since 1993, and we're a private nonprofit. Economic development, carrying out economic development in Allen County. Okay. And primarily was started with the county commissioners. And so we have an agreement with the county commissioners as well as many of the surrounding townships and some of the cities across Allen County. But then the private part of our organizations is our private industry that helps fund our organization.
Yeah, because I noticed I was looking online, you had a list of the board members, and it covers the various jurisdictions. You've got a township representative, city, county, et cetera, but then a lot of, as you said, a lot of private partners as well. How do you go about doing that? When you go to assemble partners and things like that, do you go out and recruit people? Do they come to you? How does that whole process work?
Well, we do have a 13-member board, and as you mentioned, it is quite diversified from public, private representation. So we start and make sure that we're organized properly with both private and public.
Yeah, and in terms of, David, you were at one time part of this group. You're now part of an even larger group. We're talking about the Greater Lima Regional Partnership. Talk a little bit about that organization and what it does. It's very similar, but it's spread over a larger area.
Yeah, thanks first, Steve, for having us on. And I worked with Allen Economic Development Group from 2015, became president in 2019, and then transitioned this last year to the Greater Lima Region organization. The concept really was that both economic development organizations would be focused on the task of development, but kind of would look more at different things, whereas the EDGE would really focus on the business development pieces, and we would then focus more on economic development and community development pieces, and we would also look at it as a regional type perspective. And we've talked a little bit, Steve, about just the importance of having partnerships with the large organizations like RGP, Regional Growth Partnership, which is a 17-county area. Then you would narrow it down to the Greater Lima Region, which is an 8-county area, focused primarily on Allen County, but working with the economic development individuals from those other 7 counties. But we're strictly private. So we work with private business, private organizations, whereas EDGE has a combination of public, private, people on the board, right?
Yeah, because one of the things over time, since we've been doing the show, and it's been a number of years, groups have come together because what you would see would be one jurisdiction taking business from another, and it's like basically everybody was racing to do that. These organizations kind of bring people together, so you're not cherry picking from each other. You're bringing newer groups in and newer businesses, newer organizations. When you go out to that, what are some of the tools that you would have to offer, Cindy, if I'm a prospective business partner or someone who says, gee, we're looking for a place to locate, what would be the thing that would attract me to Lima? What are some of the things you would offer?
Well, for prospects, and we are having a lot of companies look at Lima Allen County right now, and it's our location for one thing. It's I-75. It's our utilities that we have, but we have those are the tools and the resources we throw out. We have available land with utilities on site, and so that's the first thing we have to offer. And then we have a pretty good package of incentives as well. And incentives could be helping with financing, grants, property tax abatement, sales tax abatements, training. We have a wonderful Ohio Means Jobs Allen County facility that helps with business or with workforce development. So we have a pretty extensive list of resources and tools for attraction projects.
Now, one of the things you mentioned, I know, and it's one of those elements that people hear about and they don't understand how it works, but try to explain if you can. I know it's difficult. how tax abatement works, because people a lot of times think that, oh, that's a giveaway to the company coming in or the business or whoever, that they're getting a free ride, they're not paying taxes, I have to pay, why don't they have to pay? So talk a little about how tax abatement works so that people get a feel for the way it really is versus the myths about it or the misconceptions.
Yeah, well, the first thing is that property tax that's already there, that's going to continue.
Okay.
The only thing that's abated is any of the new infrastructure. When the county auditor goes out and does an assessment on a brand new facility, let's say, that's the property tax that will be abated at various different levels, at percentage levels. So it is a tool. While some people may think it would take away from the property tax value, it doesn't.
It is not.
It adds to, because if the company never comes, there would never be that tax to even begin with of the increase.
Right.
And so we've gotten really good at selling these types of incentives. And what I mean by that is we're pro-business. And so our townships, our cities, they're becoming a lot more pro-business. And they realize that other counties are doing the same thing. So it's a tool that we really have to exercise. But we do it with caution, of course. We make sure that we vet the company properly, and we know that it's set at the appropriate percentage.
Yeah, and I guess the bottom line is people have to understand, I believe that everyone is made whole. It's just that at the front end it seems as if, oh, wait a minute, they're getting this benefit without having to pay, and the reality is that's not the case. So good, yeah, thank you for explaining
And over
that.
time, then they get
They do.
100% abatement. If it's a 10-year abatement, after 10 years, then it's full up.
That's full up.
And they're reviewed annually. That's one thing that people don't understand.
okay.
Those companies and those metrics are reviewed annually. And there's various ways of canceling them, modify them, or letting them continue on with the abatement.
Now, from the private side, with regard to your group, what are the sort of things that you offer people, or what do you, when you go out to, or people come to you and ask, so why should I come to, why am I talking to you, basically?
Steve, real quick, let me just also join Cindy. The importance of tax abatements are critical because many of these companies could go elsewhere.
Sure.
And if we don't provide these incentives, they will choose to invest in other areas around the country, really.
Right.
As far as other resources, we're not bashful. We're going to go and we're going to try to find some support from Jobs Ohio, which is associated with RGP. They bring different resources to the table. We're going to look at the Ohio Department of Development and what they could bring to the table. What about looking at ODOT? What about the Toledo Port Authority, which we work closely with because we oversee the Allen County Port Authority. And that relationship brings a lot of different incentives that can help move a project forward.
Now, when we come back, as we're at the end of this segment, let's talk about the Port Authority, because people are saying, well, when you hear port, you immediately think water. And let's face it, Lima, the last time I looked, isn't on the shore of Lake Erie, the Atlantic Ocean. So we could talk about what a Port Authority is, because a lot of those terms float around out there, and people are like, well, I hear that, but what does it mean to me? Back in just a moment with Cynthia Leis and David Stratton here on The Journal. Thanks for staying with us on The Journal. We're here with Cynthia Leis and David Stratton, and we're talking economic development and economic activities in Lima from a couple of different perspectives. Cynthia, when we left that last segment, we talked a little bit about the Lima Port Authority, and I know people sometimes look at a port authority and think water, but the reality is that's a governmental construct through the state of Ohio, the Ohio Revised Code, that allows you to have more tools and, again, help businesses and attract business to areas. So talk about what a port authority is in an area where they aren't on the water.
Right. So the Allen County Port Authority has been around for many years. I think it goes back to 1962, and it was established by the county commissioners. And EDGE manages the Port Authority. So there are a lot of tools that the Port Authority can do that EDGE can't necessarily do.
Okay. And what would some of those be?
Some of those, I mean, what the Port Authority can do is we own property. We can buy and sell property. We can have options with landowners. So that's the number one reason why we think a Port Authority is very beneficial to our businesses and then the attraction of businesses. But we also have tools like a sales tax abatement, and that is if you have a relationship and you have the right appropriate paperwork in place, you can work with the Port Authority, and under construction, your construction materials can be sales tax exempt for a certain amount of period of time. So that is also part of an incentive in working with a Port Authority.
Yeah. Now, and of course, as David mentioned too, that has to be part of the package, because everybody else has something similar to that, whether it's here in Ohio, obviously, but other states, national, federal, all of those things, other places have incentive packages. So to have those tools is very important to you, obviously.
Right, and the Port Authority can also be a recipients of state and federal grants, where a lot of times EDGE, as a private nonprofit organization, cannot be a recipient of grants. So a lot of our grants filter through the Port Authority, and that might be grants for road improvement projects, water sewer projects. So that's another major advantage of having a Port Authority.
Yeah, because recently, just a few miles north of us, there's a data center going in, and the Wood County Port Authority was basically could move on putting in a large roundabout much faster than if it had gone through all of the other processes, because they had the capability and the resources and the jurisdiction to do it. Something that would have taken probably a year or two in process, and a normal thing was done in like 6 months or less. So that's the advantage you see then. Now, from the private side of it, we talked about some of the incentives and some of the tools. You obviously work with the Port Authority too, as you come to them and say, okay, hey, here's some things you can do for us. We've got a potential client. What does that process work like? If I come to you and say, here's what I need, you approach them and say, here's how we need the Port Authority to interact with you?
You know, honestly, Steve, it's so important for us. We pride ourselves in collaboration with other organizations. So Cindy mentioned the Allen County Port Authority. The Toledo Port Authority is a beautiful partner. Thomas Winston is the director there. Thomas does outstanding. Well, they bring different resources to the table, and we then join with the private sector and join with the public sector, like the Toledo Port Authority or with Jobs Ohio. We do a lot of work with a gentleman by the name of Rex Huffman. Rex Huffman is here locally at Wood County. Outstanding support system that we have there. But then our goal would be, how can we bring all the private sector? There's upwards to 75 different businesses that have contributed to this, so that they can say, where is there a gap? What kind of money could be helpful to move a project? Cindy will go out. She's done a beautiful job of looking at options on land in Allen County on the north side and the south side, upwards to 300, 400, 500 acres where you have option on land. Well, she has to then work with all these partners. We bring the private sector to the table to say, hey, how can we help? How can we be an advocate for you? How can we bring some extra monies to the table? And then what other resources through the Ohio Department of Development or Toledo Port Authority, Jobs Ohio, might there be to be able to move a project forward? And to be honest, we found a lot of success with that.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting too when you talk about having options on that thing. One of the things with the whole collaboration, cooperation situation, the fact is, you know, the I-75 corridor runs the length of the state, and I believe there's more now cooperation to say, look, here's what would work best in the Lima area. This might work better if we put it in Toledo because of logistics or something like that. That sort of thing goes on a lot now, where back in the day, everybody would have been, well, I'm not telling them what's going on in my, you know, I don't want them to know. That doesn't happen as much anymore. There's much more collaboration, cooperation, so that Ohio gets everything it can get, regardless of where it gets located. It comes to Ohio.
Right, because from a regional perspective, we know that there are no county lines. You know, when a prospect's looking at Allen County, they're really looking at the region, like the greater Lima region. So while we still may all be competitive because we all have good sites, we do benefit from any of those counties that bring an attraction project in.
Yeah, because there's discussions along any transportation corridor about what would work best in a certain location versus another location, and to make sure that everybody basically complements each other in a way too, that some things work better in certain areas. One area that you mentioned earlier on is workforce development, because one of the things that I've heard for years doing this is workforce development, so important. Ohio, to some degree, I wouldn't say struggles with it, but there's always that we need to develop the workforce more. We need more people. We need more people with these skills. When you look at what's available to people when they come to you in Lima or in Allen County, what can you say to them about workforce and the skill sets and the number of people the area you can draw skilled workers from?
Right. Well, first of all, in Allen County, we have an Ohio Means Jobs, Allen County facility, and they do a great job at recruiting and interviewing and vetting potential employees. So we know, and we can cast then our net a little further out into the 7-county region as well. So there's a lot of resources that they provide, and our companies that are looking at Lima Allen County, they want to know what does your pool of workers look like? What kind of skill levels do they have? And we rely on our Ohio Means Jobs to do a lot of that.
Right. Can I run with that just
Sure,
a little bit
absolutely.
too, Steve?
Yeah.
So when you look at Lima, Ohio, its population's about 35,000 population. The 4 townships takes it to 75,000 population.
Okay.
If you go into the 8-county area, it runs at about 400,000 population. And if you go out 60 miles in a radius, and if you think, we like to think Lima is at the center of Ohio and
Sure.
the center of the United States, right?
Everything
But if
revolves
you
around
Yes.
that. Okay.
you look at Toledo, Fort Wayne, Dayton, Mansfield. Now you're running at about 1 million population.
Okay.
So when you're talking workforce, people will travel, right? So 20 miles, 30 miles in. We don't look at it as Allen County and saying that is 102,000 population. No, it's much greater than that. Not only for workforce, but also the attraction of businesses.
Right, right, yeah.
Right.
And when we come back, because I know we're at the end of this segment, but obviously too, the transportation access, because I know when I was looking through some of the material, it talks about, of course, I-75, but in some cases you have rail access, you've got other ways, and an airport, things like that come into play too, that make it, again, easier for businesses to do what they want to do. Back in just a moment with Cynthia Leis and David Stratton here on The Journal. Thanks for staying with us on The Journal. Our guests are Cynthia Leis and David Stratton, and we're talking about economic development and economic activity in Lima and the Lima region. Cynthia, we kind of left that last segment. We were talking about some of the logistical attributes, because you've got companies who want access in any variety of ways, whether it's transportation, it's by land, whatever, rail, things like that. And Lima has all of that in place. You have I-75, obviously, but you've got an airport. You've got those other tools that gives people more opportunities, more options if they're looking at an area.
Yeah, transportation is key, and location, right? And we have US 30 as well.
That's
so
right.
that's why
That's
we're
right.
at the crossroads of America
There you go.
in Lima Allen County. But
Yep.
the transportation, yeah, is just superb. I mean, we've got the highway, we've got rail, and we have big utilities there with electric, and we've got a water treatment plant in the city of Lima that's designed to treat 30 million gallons of water per day, and we're only treating about half of that right now. So we have capacity available.
Yeah, and it's good that you mentioned the energy part of it too, because especially when situations like data centers, those use serious amounts of electricity and in some cases water, but you've got that in place so you're prepared. Because we always talk about site-ready locations where you can say, hey, look, we've got everything in place. How soon can you start, kind of a thing. And that's what companies want to know, is how soon can we get on the ground doing what we're doing. We've talked a lot about all the resources available, all the tools you have. Talk about some of the successes, because there's a long, long list of them. So talk about some of the things that have been accomplished, and then we can talk about where we're headed in the future down there as well.
Yeah, so if you come to Lima today, it looks a lot different than it did 5 years ago, downtown Lima, and there's great investments, $60 million of investment, if not more, in just downtown Lima. So people need to check out downtown Lima again. But if you go outside and you start looking at some of the industrial development we've had, I mean, just in the past year, we had involvement of about $1 billion of investment with some of our companies that are already in Lima Allen County. And a good example of that is Procter & Gamble. I mean, Procter & Gamble, they have over 500 acres. Just a couple of years ago, and I announced a $500 million expansion. And so with that, I mean, that's key to Lima Allen County as a company like Procter & Gamble.
Yeah, well, and you mentioned too, that's retaining companies that are here, which is sometimes an overlooked part of what you do, because keeping a company here is just as important or more important than sometimes attracting someone new to the area, because it's a lot easier to retain, or it's better to retain people than have to go through a whole new process to bring someone new in. You want to keep your friends close. So,
right. Because bringing in attraction projects, it can get complicated. It really can, with extending water, sewer, or your utilities, building a new road, getting power lines and substations. So, but yes, we work very closely with our our existing businesses, and we have some key companies in Lima, Allen County, and we're very diversified when it comes to our industry base.
Yeah, because I notice when you look on your site, you can see things about, biohealth, plastics manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, automotive, food processing. So it's very diverse, which of course too is what you don't want to be locked to one specific area, because then you rise and fall as that industry rises and falls depending on what's going on with it. What are some of the things as you look down the road? I mean, obviously the hot thing that people talk about now is data centers, but there's more than that out there obviously too. So talk about maybe what's downstream that you're maybe working on to the degree that you can talk about it.
I mean, we get a lot of attraction projects that are in the food industry, but I tell you, here recently in the last couple of years, we have data centers looking at Lima, Allen County, because we have good utilities, as I mentioned before, and we have available land. So we've been trying to put together 300, 500-acre sites. And so we are working with the data center right now. I'm allowed to announce it because they've announced it themselves that that they're looking at about 400 acres in Allen County.
Wow. Yeah. And now, are there other things? Because obviously this isn't a static industry. What are the kind of things you look at to say, okay, here are the tools we have right now. What will we need in the future? What will companies start to look for downstream? What are some of the things you're saying, here's where we need to be thinking about what we should have available 5 years from now, not 5 months from now?
It would be availability of land. I mean, first of all, you look around and you see a lot of farmland, and we love our farmland, but there are some of those landowners that are willing to participate in a land option. And first of all, we always look at those properties that are near utilities or near an interstate. So that's important. So I would say availability of land for future development.
Can I run with that just a little bit too? What we hear from our businesses is the importance. When we do BR&Es with meetings with companies, they're saying there's several things that we need to address. One is the land and the site preparedness, but also the housing piece is huge. So we have issues with that. We're also looking at how can we market the area, it's very important. What about workforce? A lot of those things are not just Allen County centric, right? It's throughout the whole area. So we're trying to look at how can we focus on the greater Lima region to make it an attractive place for investment. Cindy mentioned $60 million in downtown Lima. That's the start of it. Because there's another $60 million that people are talking about investing in downtown Lima. We would encourage people to come and see what's going on in Lima, Ohio. It looks a lot different. And so we're excited to bring all those pieces together to be an attractive place for people to live and work and play and eat and enjoy life.
Well, it's much because I was thinking as you're saying that we had not talked about quality of life. And again, as you look at online at the things you list, it demonstrates all the things that are available. So if you're just thinking about moving here, maybe you're not coming because a company is coming here, but that's attractive because when companies come, they want to know, okay, we want our employees to have a good quality of life. We want them to be happy here. We want them to, so what's available beyond the logistics of moving our business? What's it going to be like when our employees get here and people we want to attract as new employees? So that's an important part too.
It is, and our businesses are trying to attract employees to come and take jobs, live here, work here. So it's the amenities. Dave didn't mention, I mean, we did talk about downtown, but when you think about the amenities of the mall that we have, how are we redeveloping the mall, getting new anchor tenants? How are we attracting restaurants? And so there's a lot of amenities that go along with attracting people to our area.
Parks and recreation. Obviously, parks are big, and because people want to do more things outside. If we got just a moment here, is there one thing, if somebody says, hey, I want to talk to you about coming to Lima, what would be the simplest way for them to do it? Just pick up the phone and give you a call? Or
they can, give me a call, visit us on our website, email me. We get a lot of calls and a lot of interest, and we'll help any size of company that's interested in looking at Lima, Allen County.
We would invite them to be a GLR member.
Okay, there you go. Exactly.
Okay, so they can be a part of the partnership to see what's going on in Lima, Allen County. We're proud of what's going on. We're excited about the future. We believe in what's taking place, and Cindy's doing outstanding with Allen Economic Development Group. Outstanding. Can't say enough about the work she's doing with her team. And then, and I would say this, Steve, we're going to invite you to come to Lima, Ohio.
Okay. Yeah. I almost made it down to Lima a few weeks ago, and then something came up, so we couldn't get down there. But we've talked about doing that. We used to go downtown because we, of course, have people who are supporters of the station in Lima, and we would meet with them periodically in the downtown. And you could see the change taking place over the past number of years. So yeah, but it's one of those things. Yeah, you just have to think about it and do it. So yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And you know, people I think are feeling safe. We've got land, a lot of streetscaping. The city's doing a wonderful job with lighting projects, sidewalk projects, and we want people to come and be safe there, and they absolutely can be.
Okay, well, great. Well, thank you both so much
Thanks,
for being
Steve.
here. And anytime that you want to come on and talk about what's going on down there, something, you know, big development like you've talked about, that sort of thing, you're more than welcome, because obviously the more that you're successful, the more the region is, and the more
That's
that
right.
Ohio is, and then the country as well. So we appreciate the efforts you guys put forth to make all of this happen.
Yeah,
Thanks so
thank
much,
you.
Steve.
Yep, thank you. You can check us out at WBGU.org. You can watch us every Thursday night at 8 o'clock on WBGU-PBS. We will see you again next time. Good night and good luck.